Hi guys, welcome to Law Today, and in today's video I'll give you an overview of how TRIPS has impacted the Indian pharmaceutical sector. So to first deal with, I will be taking up the significance of patents in the pharmaceutical sector, and then I will move on to the pharmaceutical sector in India, and then I will talk about TRIPS and its impacts, and also the post-TRIPS scenario in India. So, what has TRIPS done? So, before that, we will have to understand how important patents are to the pharmaceutical sector. As we all know, the pharmaceutical sector is a sector that is highly dependent on research and development. There is a lot of money and time involved, and it is considered one to be one of the most research intensive industries in the world. That being said, it is natural to try to recoup the investment or secure whatever they have invested. So patents play an important role in helping them recoup. After which we will now be talking about the pharmaceutical sector in India, and I have divided them into two stages. In 1960, the period before 1960, and then 1970. So during 1960s we were very dependent on imports and for medicines, and we were not self sufficient. But from 1970s we saw a trend in the growth. This can be dealt in detail in a later video, but for now I have just divided this into two. And India soon became one of the major producers of drugs. Why this happened is because India had a very weak patent regime, and this had supported like drug manufacturers in India. So Patent Act 1970 had only recognized process patent, and it did not give product patent. And because of this, Indian industries were more concerned with reverse engineering and process innovation rather than creating new products. So what has TRIPS done to the Indian pharmaceutical sector? Firstly, TRIPS is an agreement on trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. It is a multilateral agreement. It was signed by all the WTO member countries in the year 1994, and it came into effect from 1st Jan 1995. It had a considerable impact on developing and least developed countries because the agreement demanded certain laws to be amended, and India had to do that. India had done the amendment in three different stages in 1999, 2002, and 2005. So the first demand was that you had to shift from process patent to product patent. This is one of the demands which are pertaining to the pharmaceutical sector alone. And then because of this, what has happened was reverse engineering was no longer possible. So because Indian pharmaceutical sector was primarily concerned with reverse engineering of drugs to create new drugs, they could no longer produce low cost medicines, and this affected and also the countries that were dependent on India's exports. So what has happened after TRIPS? The minimum standard requirements in TRIPS had to be fulfilled. So this was a part of the agreement where the TRIPS had laid down certain minimum standards, like time period, what type of patent, what for how long, the conditions, and all that was dealt under the minimum standards. So you had to fulfill those conditions. One of those conditions was to shift to a product patent regime. So India, which was giving only a process patent, now had to go into product patent as well. Then it also stipulated that you had to give a patent for a period of 20 years. And so developing countries like India were given time till 2005 to comply with all the requirements of TRIPS, and India took three amendments like we spoke. It took three amendments, one in March 1999, June 2002, and March 2005. And by March 2005, India was compliant with all the requirements of TRIPS. And this new act had come into force from 4th April 2005. This brought in a lot of changes. So any change, there's going to be good and bad. So what I look at as a negative impact of this change is the access to affordable medicines for India as well as countries that were dependent on the Indian companies, like the least developed countries. Now, since these companies were no longer able to produce uh, medicines through reverse engineering. This created a huge rise in the cost of medicines. The positive that I can see from this issue is that there was a growth in R&D. Now we had to think for ourselves, so more and more expenditure on R&D was seen in this period. So another important aspect with regard to TRIPS pharmaceutical sector is the Doha Declaration 2001, which will be dealt in another video. So Doha Declaration played a very important role in balancing this whole situation, the positives and the negatives. So the key of Doha Declaration was to find the right balance between patent protection and access to medicines. So you have to put them in a weighing scale and make sure they're balanced right. On one hand, yes, we do need patent protection because this industry is surviving due to patent protections. We do need new medicines to come out soon, and we do need the medicines to be at a reasonable price. But again, patent also has a tendency to reduce the access to medicines. So on the one hand, to develop medicines you need patents. On the other hand, patents should not become a hindrance to access to medicines. So there should be a right balance, and Doha Declaration played an important role in finding that balance, and we have to continue that balance. So thanks for watching. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found this informative and useful. Please leave your questions in the comments section below. Until next time, happy learning and take care. Thank you.